Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of Lysias, and I'm reading the speech on the murder of Eratosthenes, and got up to section 16. So we've seen before that the woman whom the speaker claims Eratosthenes was also having an affair with has now become very angry because Eratosthenes is no longer frequenting her place, but coming over, of course, to Philetos' wife. So picking up from there, again, I won't necessarily read all the Greek out, we'll just translate it, but just a little bit. So prosylthousa moi engus he anthropos tes oikias tes emas epiterusa. So therefore, now the subject here is he anthropos, which you might have thought it would say hegune or something, but this is slightly formal. It's the female personage, so the female person that I've been mentioned above, having come near to me then, and epiterusa, keeping watch on my house, feminine participle from epiterio, she said, Philetos. Now they get the imperative here, nomizde me, and then the infinitive, and then prosse, I think in that order. So consider me to have come to you, this is the perfect infinitive from proserchomai, by no meddlesomeness. The corresponding verb with this one often means to be a busybody, but we don't have a word busybodiness in English, so I'll just say meddlesomeness. Consider me to have come to you not by way of being meddlesome, to paraphrase it slightly. Hoggar for the ane, the man, who brisdone, not just acting insolently, but acting destructively in regard to you and your wife. Tunkane, chances, and then we get the typical participle, chances being ekthros, an enemy, heimin, to us. It's almost to us as well, but we don't have a kai there. Aean labes ten therapinen ten es agoran badidzusan kai diakonusan humin kai basanises hapanta puse. If, therefore, subjunctive from Lambano, you might take hold of the servant girl, the therapainan, and then the tain goes with the participles badidzusan and diakonusan. So the one who, well, badizdos, to go, present participle, so probably coming and going, perhaps, the one who comes and goes into the marketplace. So the one who goes to do the shopping, one who goes into the marketplace, and the one who looks after you, serves you, from diakonio. So if you take hold of that servant girl, the one who goes to the marketplace and looks after you, and after e'an, you might torture her from basanisdo, so you might torture her. Puse is future, second person, future from punthanamai, so you will perceive hapanta, everything. Estide efa Eratosthenes, o aethen hot tauta praturn. So she said, it is Eratosthenes. Now, aethen, the then is that old ablative from ending, and the oe is a deme. It's a deme from the tribe of Oines, but apparently the exact location is a matter of debate. So it is Eratosthenes from Oi, the one who is doing all these things. Hos monon tain sein gunaika diaphthaken alatas alas polas. For not only has he corrupted, this is the perfect here from the Ephthero, literally destroyed, but in this sense it just means corrupted, Not only has he corrupted your wife, but also many others. Tauten gar ten tekne neke. Well, literally, for he has this art. So he makes an art form of it. This is his modus operandi or something of that sort. So he makes an art form of seducing other men's wives, is what she's saying. Tauta epusa o Andres, ekene men ap elage. So, having said these things, gentlemen, she, now we get a men and a de, so she ap elage. Now, apolasso in the active is to separate. In the passive, it means to be separated and hence to depart. So that woman departed, but I, Euthios, immediately et taraktoman. This is from, it's tarasso, normally, that's tarato in the Attic dialect, where the double sigma becomes double tor. It means to be disturbed, to be troubled, in the passive. So I was stirred up, I was troubled. And it's in the imperfect here, so I began to be troubled. Kai panta mu estem gnomein eis ia, and all things entered into my gnome, into my thought or opinion. So lots of different thoughts came to me. So all things entered into my gnome, into my mind, perhaps almost here. Kai mestos a hupopsias. Now this a here, some of the later editions write ein, which was a more newer form of the first person imperfect of the verb to be, which we've seen before. Here this editor's just put a in the apparatus criticus. You'll see there's an ein down the bottom. Of course it disappears in later Greek. In koine it becomes amen, but it's just I was. So I was full of hupopsias, suspicion. Enthumomenos men hos apokleisthein entodomatio. And we get a men and there's the de. So enthumeumenos here, something like reflecting on. Reflecting on the one hand, how I was shut out, so perhaps I was locked up in the domatio, up in the bedroom. We heard about that in an earlier section there. And anamimne skomenos, and recalling, there's the balancing de, that on that night, he metalos thura kai he auleos. Now this is referring to one door. In fact, it looks like it's two, but it's the metalos is the courtyard, and the auleos is really like a hall. So it's the door joining the courtyard and the hall. I think there's only one door really being referred to here. Epsophe, from psophio, epsilon contract verb, this is the imperfect, was making a noise. So recalling how on that night the door joining the courtyard to the hall was making a noise, which udepoti egenetot, which had never happened before. Edoxi temoi hegune epsimutheosthai. Now we had that verb earlier of putting on makeup and being made up. And it seemed to me, so we get a nice connecting tet here, and it seemed to me that my wife had makeup on. She had made herself up. Tauta mu panta es ten gnomein es aa. And all these things entered into, and then the mu was in earlier here, so all these things entered into my thought, my gnome, into my mind. Kai mestos hypopsias, and I was full of suspicion. So he just repeats again, just to emphasize it, the exact same expression we had up earlier here. And I think he's trying to get across to the jury that, well, I was very naive before this and I trusted everything she said, but after I heard all this, then I suddenly, at this stage only, became suspicious. In other words, this is all very recent. I had no premeditated views. I only became suspicious after this woman appeared. Elthone de oikadi ekelion akoluthein moi ten therapinen es ten agoran. Having come, or having gone oikadi, that de to home, so having gone home to my home, I bid the servant girl, akoluthein moi, takes a dative, akolutheo, to follow me into the marketplace. Agagon, this is the aorist participle from ago. It's a strong aorist. It's agagon in the aorist, and this is the participle. Having led her, now this is the use of hos meaning to. So hos ton epite deontina. So to a certain one, doesn't name the person, of my acquaintances, of my friends. So having done that, I began to say, elegon imperfect, that, and this, now this is reported speech, and so it goes. So he would have said the following, reported direct speech, but now this is indirect speech, so the verb goes into the optative. So I began to say that I, aein pepusmenos, this is from punthanamai, so I had perceived, I had realized, panta ta gignomina, all the things that were taking place, or are taking place, it's present participle, in the house. Soi un ephain exesti duain hypoteron boule helestai. This is rather slightly amusing here, probably not from the point of view of the slave girl. Therefore, so I said, ephain, first person, from the imperfect of phemi. So I said, exesti, it is lawful for you then, so in other words, it's possible for you then, helestai, to choose. This is that middle from hyreo I take, hyreamai, middle I choose, and this, the aorist is halon, and this is the aorist middle infinitive. So it's possible for you to choose hopoteron, whichever duoin, we get a nice dual here, whichever of two things you wish. Or perhaps we should, actually I probably should say, to choose from two things, whichever one you wish, might be better grammar there. So it is possible for you to choose from two things, whichever one you wish. And here are the two options. A mastigothesan es mulona empesain, kai medipoti pausastai kakois toi utois sun ekomenain. So either, having been whipped, we get a passive participle, the verb is mastigoto, but from mastic's a whip, having been whipped, empesain, literally to fall into, so it's perhaps to be thrown to the mill. In other words, she's going to be punished with hard labour, so having been whipped to go off and work in the mill, basically, which is hard labour. Kai me depoti, and never to cease. Sun ekomenain, this is from sun ekomai, passive, being constrained or afflicted, toiutois kakois, by such miseries, by such terrible things. So that's your first option. A, or, so we get A, either that or kat epusan, speaking, I think the kata makes it speaking directly or speaking out, hapanta, all things, which all the true things, so declaring all the true things, pathane, infinitive, aorist infinitive from pasco, to suffer, maiden kakon, nothing bad. So if you tell me the truth, then you'll suffer nothing bad, otherwise you're going to suffer. Alla gnomes par emu tukain tone hamatam menon. But rather to meet with pardon, some gnome, this is from tunkano, takes a genitive, but to meet with a pardon from me, and a pardon for the things having been done wrong. This is a perfect participle here from hamatano, to sin. So from the things which were sinned. It's a perfect passive participle here. So to meet with pardon from me for, we would say, put it as a noun, for the misdemeanors. Psuse de maiden alla panta talege lege. Now this is subjunctive here for imperative. So lie in respect of nothing, but speak all the truth, all the true things, from ta alethe. So there are the options that she's got. Kakene tomen proton ex anos ein, kai poien ekeluen hotibulamai. And this is from kai ekene, and she, tomen proton, at first. Now we get a men here, and it's going to be balanced by the de in the next bit here. So she at first literally was a denier, an ex anos. There's the verb aneamai, to deny. This is it's a two-termination adjective here, and hence it ends in os, even though it's referring to the woman. So she was at first an outright denier, to get the ex in, and she bid understand me, poien, to do, hoti, whatever thing I wished. Now we've got to supply she said here, for she said, Adenai, that she knew uden nothing. So there's the men, and now there's the de, but when I, emnesthein, Eratosthenes pros autain, when I made mention of Eratosthenes to her, and I said, hoti, that this man was the one, phoiton from phoitao, the one who was frequenting, the one who was calling upon my wife, exaplage, this is from ek plaso, this is the aorist passive. It means to be knocked out, but it means to be amazed. She was struck dumb almost, so she was amazed. She was perhaps almost terrified. She was shocked, thinking, so perhaps having realised from Hegemai, having realised that I, enkokenai, perfect, that I too have known, panta, all things, acrobos, accurately. So when I made mention of Eratosthenes to her and said that this was the guy who was frequenting my wife, optative because it's indirect speech, she was shocked, and she realised, or she thought, that I knew everything accurately. Kai toti ede pros targonata mu pesusa, kai pistin parimu labusa maiden peses thy kakon. And at that time then, pesusa, aorist participle from pipto, having fallen at my knees, having taken from me pistin. Now pistis in later Greek means faith, but here it's a technical term. It means surety or guarantee. Often, well, not here, but often in the court cases, it was a bit like bail money as well. You can have that sense in the court case, but here it's just surety or perhaps a guarantee. Having taken a guarantee from me that this is a future participle, she would suffer no ill. Future infinitive, I should say. This is from Pasco. It's easy to confuse Pasco and Patho, but this is from the future from Pasco, that she would suffer no ill, and it's a future infinitive. Categore proton men hos metatenic forenate pros ioi. She made the accusation firstly that pros ioi, this must refer to Eratosthenes, I think, that he had approached from pros hieni, he had approached her metatane ekphoran after this was the ekphora, this was the funeral procession we had earlier on, and afterwards she made the accusation, or she accused herself really, that she herself, teleutosa is a participle from teleutao, but it's being used almost, it means bringing the matter to completion, perhaps like our expression, bringing the matter to a head, or perhaps just finally. Ace angelea, this means to introduce, but by way of report, but it's often used to just here to act as a go-between. How she herself finally acted as a go-between, and how Ekene, that woman, that is the wife, to chrono in time, Paistheia, and this is from Patho, had been persuaded. This is an aorist passive from Patho. So aorist passive optative, as it's in reported speech. She had been persuaded. And hois tropois, by what means, pros e oito, she, that is the servant girl, she had arranged the entrances, so she had organised the comings and goings, perhaps to put it into English. It's literally, she had let him come to the entranceway. So she had arranged his comings, his entrances, literally. And how Thesmophoriais at Thesmophoria, now we get genitive absolute, me being, that is, Philetos, when I was in agro, literally in the field, but probably on the farm, so that, and how, when I was away on the farm, at the Thesmophoria, now this must refer to the, well, it's not clear whether this is the wife or the servant girl. Possibly I took this as being the servant girl here, otherwise she might have put some ekene or something. How she went into the temple, meta tes metros tes ekenu, with the mother of him, that is Eratosthenes. And Diagacetot, she related accurately or carefully tala ta genomina panta, all the other things, this is ta plus alla, all the other things that had taken place. Now this is important point here. The Thesmophoria is a women's was a woman's only festival, so Eratosthenes would not have been present. Hence, the oikotot must refer to one of the women, either the wife or the servant girl. But the important point here is that Eratosthenes' mother has been involved. And of course it's Eratosthenes' family who are now prosecuting him. And so the speaker here is saying that Eratosthenes' mother was in on the act in the first place. And that's an important part of the speaker's argument. And that's the end of that little part of the speech, and we'll continue this in another recording.